let's do this. Bobby.
Hello.
Hi, Bobby. We can hear you. Good.
All right.
We're here, Celtics postgame show. The Celtics beat the Sixers 110-106. Not at all really what the game was like. This was a double-digit game in the fourth quarter. And, free throws, three-pointers, gambler's nightmare. It was a 7.5-point spread, and Philly busted it late. So I'm sorry for the Celtics bettors, but Celtics move on. None of us expected anything different was going to happen in this game, though Philly did show a fair amount of fight at the beginning and some strategic differences that kind of kept it close. Things, Bobby Manning, you were wondering why they didn't try earlier in the series. So Let's introduce Bobby, Nick Gelso, and let's get into it. Bobby, let's talk about the first half. Some of the things Philly did, some of the weirdness. Daniel Tice in. I'm still confused what happened here. Tice was in. We thought he picked up 2 fouls. He only picked up 1. Stevens might have thought it was 2. He sat him after 30 seconds, sat him the whole quarter. We realized he only had 1 foul. It really threw off the rhythm of how that game started. You had Cantor in there. You had Rob Williams in there. It was a really messy first quarter. But let's get into the start of the game before we kind of, eulogize the Sixers once and for all here.
Another game early that the 76ers definitely could have won. They won the first quarter, I believe. They at least played better than the Celtics in there. So that was what Brad was talking about throughout this series. And, they did win the first quarter by 5. Philly was doing things that challenged them in the first halves of these games, and I thought they did again here. Better performance from Josh Richardson on Jason Tatum early. You talked about some of the struggles that Tatum went early through with the jump shot there. And letting Al Horford roll with the bench. Love the lineup that they put out there with Korkmaz and some of the wings. And he was able to take it to Grant Williams. Grant's a guy who Stevens has been having chase Horford on and off the floor when he goes to center. And it didn't work this game. I thought Al was outstanding, and he set an early tone for them. But as it has in this series, the 76ers don't persist into the second half, especially Embiid.
It just seems that the Sixers cannot put it all together for 4 quarters or even 1 quarter. They just tend – I don't know. Brett Brown has lost that locker room. He comes out with a game plan, and then somewhere along the line they go off track and don't come back to it. But today was their best played game.
Yeah, Embiid waved them off twice in this game. First, he stopped playing the drop coverage and guarding Kemba, which actually worked. And then second, he gets his 5th foul in the 4th and waves Brown off, taking him out of the game. So, he lost the team here, and he'll be done.
Oh, he lost them a while ago.
Well, Bobby, you said Horford was outstanding. I wonder what our standard for outstanding is. Again, we're talking about a guy who had 8 points and is flexing and talking about how the guy guarding him is too short in the first half, and even Doris Burke friggin' lit him on fire there. Like, I guess you could say that when you get 8 points. He finished with freaking 12. Okay, and again, it's very clear that he's better when he gets to play without Embiid on the floor. And I guess this is part of Philly's problem. And honestly, this has a lot to do with kind of what happens this offseason when you're talking about what to move. At the end of the day, Bobby, and we talked about this last game, Horford's not going anywhere. It's an immovable contract, especially given the financial situation regarding the league. Tobias Harris is an immovable contract. So you have to move someone who makes money, who actually has value. And now, because you're saddled with these guys, you may have no choice but to move Embiid or try to, and just commit to Al being your center for the next couple of years, because that's what you've got. Because that's going to be a problem for them right now, is Al can play on his own. He can't play in a lineup with Embiid. And you're stuck with Al. He's not going anywhere. So while you'd rather not be stuck with Al, they are. And that's a reality. That might affect their decision-making in the offseason.
Clearly, it is not Simmons and Al. It's Embiid and Al maybe that can't play together, right? So,
well, it's both.
It's both. I don't know.
I think Embiid and Horford ended about a -44 together in the series. So that was a disaster too. And again, that's poor coaching by Brown. Doesn't adjust until game 4 with that. And Horford getting scorched again and again. Everybody could see it. He couldn't stay in front of Jaylen Brown.
Not only that, I mean, when they switch in Kemba, you have Kemba. I mean, he broke more of Al. I didn't know Al Horford had that many ankles.
3 ankles left on the floor, 6 if you count both of them times 2 there. So he was doing plenty of that today. It's a debacle there.
Brett Brown is not a bad coach. He's can't coach these guys. I mean, I don't know who can. I think that it starts at the top, and Embiid. Let's start right here. Embiid can't play more than one half. He's immediately winded, gassed, and out of shape.
Died in the fourth quarter again tonight.
It is pretty amazing, and the flopping that he does in the second half is honestly, I think, just because he needs a rest and he just wants to lay on the floor, But you're right. I mean, he's and this is why Al used to make him work and why he would burn him out as the game would go on, So,
and that's what I'll say this for Al. I said this after Game 3 too. Awful fit. Awful deal. Those two things are certain. I feel like he has something left to give. Now, you talk about Embiid moving. He's a massive contract too. So if something stops Embiid or Horford from moving because of the monetary concerns in the league, it's going to be tough for a team to pick up Embiid's contract too because it's equally bloated. Probably $33 million over the next couple of years.
Yeah, but Embiid has a future. Al is ready for the retirement home. Embiid has a future. Of course he does. He just has to get his head on his shoulders.
Injury prone, those kind of things. The conditioning.
I mean, he's still
he won't be an easy piece to move.
He would be great if they teamed him with a veteran. You thought Al.
Who are we talking about? I spaced out.
This is Embiid.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
He won't be much easier to move than Horford, and I mean that in terms of getting something back, which is what they have to do. And that's where it's going to be tempting. That's where it's going to be tempting to move Simmons. Yeah, the salary's the huge thing right now in the league, and all three of those guys have massive contracts.
Yeah. Al is taking a beating, and I get it, and we're going to take a beating in the comments for sticking up for him. But the truth is, Al Horford has a track record of being able to play with everybody except Kyrie Irving and Joel Embiid.
I thought he played good with Kyrie,
except the best players on the last two teams he was on. Okay.
But I mean, look at who you're talking about, John. I mean, you're not talking about
I wouldn't compare those two.
Sane people. I mean, these are. I like Embiid. I don't like Kyrie, but I like Embiid. But he's not all upstairs, and I think Al is very, very routine oriented. He's mature.
Yep.
That locker room is clearly a cluster. You know what I'm saying? So I can't see. Did you like how I edited myself there, John? A cluster.
Yeah. Oh, did you mute that? I'm going to swear right now. Hold on. I'm going to mute myself.
No, I didn't mute it. I just pretended I did. But yeah, I was basically imitating Brett Brown at that moment. Nobody heard
good. That's good. And Brown, you do feel a little bad for them because he's trying to make things work. He's not coaching the best game, and then they're right in this until about 77-77, and Harris's head flops off the floor, disgusting injury, and they just lost all life when that happened. So that was the only.
This is Harris. This is the same Tobias Harris who was shooting 8% from three in the series prior to this game. That guy. Okay.
Also overpaid.
They missed that guy. I mean,
he has the biggest contract of all of them.
The excuse making for Philly is going to make me lose my freaking mind.
No, there's no excuse.
It's a team that was supposed to be the best in the Eastern Conference
last year, John. It's the same exact scenario.
It's their last year Celtics. They're a bunch of losers. They're losers. Okay, there's no pity for these guys. Yes,
they were losers. Last year's team.
Yes.
I don't know if they were losers.
The Kyrie Celtics were underachieving losers.
No, he's talking about
the top.
This Philly team is underachieving losers. I have no pity for them, okay?
Well,
these are guys making a cajillion dollars underperforming, okay?
As a Philly boy, all I can tell you, John, is thank God for Philly that this game was in the bubble and not in Philadelphia, because there would have been more beer on the court than players today and Game 3.
That's another thing about this team too.
Go ahead, Bobby.
We didn't get into this about Philly either. 29-2 at home this year, and then just completely.
Who?
But this is
I'm saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's a bad thing because they couldn't win outside of Philly.
It is, but Brett Brown was crying about it heading into the game. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that advantage of playing at home. Every team wants to play at home. This is as neutral as it gets.
LeBron? Is his name LeBron?
This is as neutral as it gets. They're playing in a bubble.
Mentally weak teams can't play on the road. This team has always been mentally weak. I was at the game with the Cannon. Remember, they shot off they were celebrating, and they utterly collapsed in that game. Utterly. I've seen them collapse so many times. This isn't even a rivalry anymore. This is like It's
not a rivalry because they always kick our ass.
It's not.
Well, if you count the sweep here, 12-30 away from Philadelphia this year. 12-30.
Yeah.
Mentally weak.
Mentally weak.
That is bad.
Well, it's true. I mean, poor coaching, mentally weak, no leadership at the top. I think there were injuries in there too, weren't there? Not that it matters.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Injuries are part of the game.
Every team has injuries. Everyone's playing in the bubble. Everything is dead even. This is who you are.
Well, Simmons, we're going to say Simmons?
Of course it matters, but they sucked with Simmons this year, too. They were the 6th seed.
They did. This is probably a longer series with him out there.
They sucked all year, of course.
I don't know that it is, Bobby. Simmons isn't that good to make that big of a difference.
Well, you know what I saw? They play differently.
Al Horford isn't that bad to blame either.
Simmons, Hayward,
Embiid,
look,
and Brett Brown.
We all thought this was a 5-game series without Simmons here. It was a 4-game series without Simmons and Hayward. Okay, so I mean, come on.
I called the sweep.
Right, a lot of people are saying 4 or 5 without Simmons. Then you handicap the Celtics, and they won it in 4 anyway. This isn't homerism. This is anti-Phillyism. This was a dreadful mess of a team, poorly assembled. And it was evident from day one, and it's very much like last year's Celtics team. It just didn't fit. The pieces didn't fit together for whatever reason, and that's what it was.
I'm going to go a little felder here. The Green Teamer nerds, better shut up. This is 2 years in a row. Stats don't lie. The ball don't lie. You look great on paper. You don't have chemistry. You're going to fucking suck. And you did. And that's the end of that.
Are we swearing?
Analytics and spreadsheets
there goes the sense.
don't predict freaking chemistry and leadership. You can't put that on paper. Nerd!
Keep it clean or I'm tossing you, okay? I got people waiting in the queue to get in this show.
I don't even need the censors. How do we feel about the Celtics out of this one? You didn't love it, John, did you?
I mean, I thought, we know what it is. They played to me like a team that knew that whenever they needed to turn it on, they would do whatever it took to win the game, and they did it 3 times this series. I think they sensed it. It was a game. It was like, these guys can't run with us. That was the vibe I got a lot at times. They played loose. They didn't value possessions. They stopped swinging the ball at a certain time. Turnovers in the first half, reaching, slappy defense, taking fouls. They looked like they were half-assing it, it felt like. And even as soon as they got an 8-10 point lead, they're like, is it over yet? And then they got sloppy again with some possessions. Philly just didn't have enough juice to make them pay for it. And, Bobby, when you say if Philly had employed these tactics in Game 1 or earlier in the series, it might have been different. I don't think so, because I think ultimately when the Celtics needed to take it seriously, they
did some dumb things.
Yeah.
This is what worries me about the Celtics too, is it came easy for them in this one. All they had to do was run a high screen, get Tatum and Kemba loose either in between or at 3, and they were getting a wide open shot.
At any time.
That's not going to happen against Toronto.
No.
I don't know what they're doing.
Philly was giving Kemba was shooting practice jumpers.
Yes.
I mean, just practice elbow jumpers. He could have done that all game.
This was the easiest game of Kemba's life.
He could have had 70 points if he wanted to. You could give the ball. I'm so baffled. Like, why Philly? Okay, Philly, why don't you put it to Horford in the post when Jalen's on him? Great. Why didn't Boston give Jalen the ball in the wing, isolate, and just go at Horford till you play him off the floor?
They felt bad, John. How many ankles are they going to break?
Play the guy off the floor.
Now, I think that's what Brown said. There was no good option there, because if Brown was cutting back line, he's going to kill them. Tice, Cantor, good rollers. But again, you're talking about Tatum and Kemba, 2 of the best shooters in the game, versus Daniel Tice and his Cantor rolling to you, and Embiid's ability to drop back and recover there.
Daniel Tice, who is an excellent center, we should point out. Right, Bobby?
Thank you. 6 of 12, 15. Good game from him.
He's had a tremendous bubble. He really has a great bubble.
Only 2 fouls today, too.
He was awesome.
Nobody's dunked more than the Celtics in the bubble, but I want to hone in on what John said a little bit there, because if the Celtics take those games off or those skins off versus Toronto, they're going to get killed. So they better focus in, and people forget. I think we all forget, because Tatum, Brown, these guys look like seasoned veterans, but they're young guys. They've had playoff experience, but they're young. Yep. So they got to really focus in. Tatum cannot get frustrated and shut down. Superstars find other things to do to make their teammates better when their shot's not falling. If Tatum has a Game 3 stint like that, Toronto will capitalize, and they're well coached. So you're not going to have Brett Brown So
Yeah,
the Celtics have work to do, and I don't want them to get too. Let's not forget that disaster of a team last year swept the Pacers in the first round.
Yep, and I'm glad you bring that up, Nick, because the reason I wanted Philadelphia before all the Simmons stuff happened is I thought they could challenge the Celtics. I thought they could give them a tough first round, capitalize on Boston's weaknesses inside that you talk about. But then it became that cakewalk. It became the Indiana series from last year, and they're moving into a similarly challenging second round. Toronto has some issues, and they walked through Brooklyn in the first round, so they are not the dream team that we thought they were early in the bubble.
They are the defending champs minus their MVP.
Yep, they're the defending champ. They match up well with Boston on the wing, and I think that's where suddenly we start to feel the Gordon Hayward loss. And
I really don't. I got to be honest. The biggest loss for Hayward is you've got to guard him. But think about it this way, Bobby. He was going out anyway. This has forced the also-rans on our bench to step up and be players. Cantor had to play. Williams had to play. So it forced them to grow up a little bit quicker because Hayward is tinfoil. So he's going to go and hold his wife's hand during the pregnancy. That's wonderful. Hopefully,
that's 2 games versus finals.
But the Celtics have now a bench that has experience kicking the ass of the Philadelphia 76ers. So hopefully that ends up being a good thing.
Is all you want to do swear in this? Is that why you joined this show? You just want to swear?
Ass isn't a curse. They say
unbelievable.
It on CNN now.
Let's talk about it a little because this was concerning. Okay, and this is what happens. You see momentum at times when some of these bench guys get consistent minutes, and what a difference it makes. Okay, you took Rob Williams out of this series. Okay, and after he had been playing consistent minutes in the 8 games leading up, and he took the floor for a couple minutes tonight, and he looked like it was the first time he'd ever played basketball. Okay, Romeo Langford, same thing. After 2 games ago, he plays 28 minutes or 26 or whatever it was, reduced to 10 or 11. And he gets out there again and same, just a really rough 2-minute stretch where, again, he looked like he didn't belong on the floor at all. Grant Williams, again, Grant did not have a good run this time too. So we've got a real Jekyll and Hyde bench situation here because we had a couple games where we're singing Wanamaker's praises. We had that awesome game with Tatum and the bench squad, which was terrific. And we're like, wow, they might be onto something. And they couldn't repeat it because of foul trouble where they couldn't stay that rotation. So I don't know what we're looking at when it comes to the bench here going into round 2. You have no idea. And Sammy was again today.
He was awful today.
Awful. Brad was yelling at him. He was all, how the did you travel under the basket? He had nowhere to go. He makes this great offensive rebound, and he's standing under the basket. Why?
He starts shuffling his feet.
Why walk? There's nowhere left to go. You're already under the basket. It was so perplexing, but he was frustrating. So again, anytime one of these guys check in, you have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I was really disappointed not to see more Robert Williams. And I'm not one of those guys, Time Lord guys, that are like, "Ooh, play him so we could have us mascot." No, I thought he's been great in the bubble, and I would have liked to see him a little bit more, Robert Williams. Cantor played well, though, too.
Cantor played well in this series, but they found a good one to play him in, where he's able to guard Embiid and not have to do all that perimeter defensive play. And Grant good in this one, too. 4 for 4 from 3. He showed some strides, but again, it's all about the matchups when it comes to their bench, when it comes to the center position. And I don't know if
here we go.
I don't know if those guys have an advantage against Toronto. It's a completely different style of play, and it's just skill set too.
All the way around. You don't have a team that has revolted on their coach and revolted on each other and are out of shape.
The championship thing too, Nick. It matters. It really does. That team believes they can repeat.
Let's face it. I'm not questioning Kemba. He's a killer. But if I heard NBC one more time talk about this being his first playoff win, I was going to vomit.
Now I want to bring up Kemba too, because we said it came early for him, easy for him in this series. It's going to be the complete opposite against Toronto. Kyle Lowry is going to go at him defensively, and it's going to be a challenge for Kemba.
Who's Van Fleet going to guard?
Now that could be your advantage. Semi, Grant, those guys.
Van Fleet's a starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Who's
but
he
who's
guarding?
going to be Marcus Smart? He's going to have to guard Marcus Smart, who's
I guess. I'll put
who's shooting
Marcus.
probably 40%.
Here's where Marcus breaks that offensive jinx. He's going to start posting
Listen
up.
here.
He's going to post up Van Fleet. Physically, it makes
I
more
This
agree
is
sense.
with that,
Marcus
John.
Smart series.
John, I
But
agree
you can
with
see
that.
Marcus. You can see Marcus in the post. You can see Marcus getting physical there. This is where, because he's got to unlock something. He's been brutally bad offensively right now, and that all year long he had the great the pull up threes. That's gone. Catch and shoot.
It'll come back. He's streaky. He's not a pure shooter. He goes in streaks, and you're right. This is a perfect series for Marcus to show up and be Marcus. But the thing about Marcus Smart is he still does Marcus Smart things. He still defends. He still gets the 50-50 balls. He's out hustling everybody. So he was still important. I mean, he sucked offensively in this series, but he still did good defensive things.
I'd go as far to say Smart will decide this next series. If they get
Here
more
we go.
offense from him, if he's able to help on Kemba, because Kemba's going to need some help guarding
Yeah,
Lowry.
I mean, but
He seriously will.
Smart is 7 of 24 in the, in this series, 29% field goals, 1 of 13 from
Field goals?
But listen, Marcus Smart
yes,
can be
7
that going
and
in.
1 of 13 from 3. I mean,
And you know what? I love that stat line because it could be game 1 against Toronto, and he would take and make the winning 3-point shot if it was down the line. That's just Marcus Smart. I'm telling you, I think you're right, John. He'll have a breakout series here.
I think he has to, because I think that's an area where, again, that could work in their favor. But I don't know. It is, we have talked up Toronto as this boogeyman, but the Celtics have been successful. And again,
such disrespect for a champion. I
know.
But I get why you're saying it because their MVP denigrated their team. Sorry, that's a whole new topic. Did you guys hear about how last night I was invited onto an NBA Celtics show and I went on for 30 minutes about the NFL? So I've now been banned from everyone's guest lists.
You're going to be banned from here, too, if you
I
keep
know.
going.
I know. John's so pissed off he's frozen.
I'm reading.
You're looking at the green teamers. Oh God!
He's lucky I'm a bit more censored here.
No, I'm just looking at
this year.
Yeah. I'm looking at some comments, and I'm waiting. The Toronto fans, we've learned,
they
are spicy. And if there's any of you out there, fire in the chat here. We'll get involved in it because, we have been all over the map on Toronto for real. We gave them a ton of props, but before the Celtics played them as possibly the best team. They were the best team in the bubble heading into that matchup late in the regular season. Celtics demolished them, but Toronto was still, they're crazy hot, 35 and 5 or less.
And the Hayward thing,
the Hayward thing changed it. So now we're trying to figure out what kind of series this is going to be, and I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think with Hayward, I would have given Boston the edge, but
this comment's money right here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This comment's money because Jason Tatum may slow down a little bit against Siakam's defense, so I wouldn't count on it because he's just money from everywhere on the floor right now.
Wait a minute, he didn't touch a ball for 3 months.
I mean, he's been phenomenal. Siakam's been shaky. He has, and he's their front man. I know Lowry can come through better on some nights. Van Fleet can go off, but they'll need Siakam to be better to win this series.
Yeah, this is a Time Lord series, I've been told.
We'll see.
This is the same.
So I'm looking at Cantor.
Series.
Cantor's a plus against Toronto this year, 11 points a game, 9 rebounds per game, better than I thought against them. So he may be playable in this one after all, even though
he had a great Christmas Day game, if I remember correctly. I think
he did. Yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, I think we were a bit over putting too much emphasis on the Hayward injury. I'm one of those guys. Like I do realize that he is a big loss. You have to guard him. But at the same time, like I said, the Celtics had to prepare for him going anyway. And truthfully, when have we seen Kemba Walker and Gordon Hayward both healthy and playing amazing together? Not often, if at all. I mean, I really haven't. I mean, this season, Gordon had a decent year. It was okay. The bubble was his best stretch of basketball. But when did we see it where they were both on the court amazing together? And we haven't. So, and the Celtics have fared fairly well. So I think it's a bit less than everybody's saying, especially Danny Ainge, who's going on the radio circuit, just hammering it because he wants people to let their guard down, I think.
Nick, what are you talking about?
It's less about Hayward, and if you want to go in that direction,
Hayward matters a ton, man. I mean, Hayward matters a ton here.
Yeah, you can't compare Toronto and Philly either.
Because that's the whole thing is your margin for error. You get further in these playoffs, your margin for error goes down. So a 2 of 19 Tatum game, which could happen again, or just an off game, needs to be offset somewhere. And the Celtics' strength was always that you've got 4 guys who can score 30, which means 2 of them can have shitty games, and you could theoretically be picked up by the other 2. And an occasional.
Are you saying Daniel Tice can't score 30?
That's the thing is you're just putting the burden on people who are less capable of doing it. Gordon Hayward has scored 30 points and carried an offense before. He's done it his whole
5 years ago.
And he's done it plenty of times this year where it was
he would have been able to.
That was the Gordon Hayward game. And then when guys are out or missing, he absolutely has it in his bag. It's just based on rhythm and what the game needs. But Gordon, I think always gives you what the game needs, and that's great. When he needs to score, when he needs to run with the second unit, when he needs to bring up the ball.
That's where he's missed.
When the offense runs through him, it allows you to play different rotations and always have offensive threats out there. And now you don't,
John,
especially when
tonight.
Yeah, especially when Marcus is dry.
I think everything you're saying is right, but at the same time, you didn't address what I just said. We've not seen it from. We've not. You have basically named everything that Hayward can do. We know what he can do. He's done some of it in the bubble, but he's not done any of it consistently. And the Celtics have fared fairly well without Gordon Hayward the last 3 years of this $100 million.
Prior to his injury or this year when he went out again, he was close to 20 points per game and looked as good as he'd looked. It took him a little while. Took him a little while to get back to it, and then he looked terrific in the bubble again. Not having that Gordon Hayward is a killer.
His stat line was surprising when you looked at it after the pause, because you said, okay, 17 points. I think he had like 4 and 7 maybe, but 17 points. You're thinking, okay, but he never really dominated. And as a matter of fact, he missed more clutch.
You don't need him to dominate. You need him to be your third or fourth option.
You're talking about him 30-point games. I haven't seen one Hayward 30-point
there with his shooting. It's all about shooting when it comes to getting those big scoring games.
He's capable of doing it. It's in his repertoire.
That's what I said.
I'm not saying you're counting on 30 points from him. I'm saying he's capable of it, and it helps spread the wealth. It helps spread the wealth. That's the thing.
The thing that's missed is the bench. I agree. The bench run, being with the second unit, and then also the fact that you got to guard him whether he's on or not because he's Gordon Hayward. So the passing here, but I just don't see it as the nail in the coffin. I just don't see it. I have not seen enough of him in a Celtics uniform play these style of games you guys are talking about. The bubble is the best he's been. He was a good role player. He wasn't even a fringe all-star player prior to the first injury.
No, I got to disagree.
He's way beyond that.
All-star game, Jaylen Brown didn't make it. He should have.
I know, but he's well beyond that, and he is, and it is again when your bench sucks like the Celtics does. He is essential because now you're giving minutes to Semi
think of the two teams
and Romeo.
Well.
Imagine, Nick, you're not comparing him
going anyway.
Nick, you're comparing him up to the wrong guys. You're comparing
he was going for 2 games.
You're comparing him to Jalen and Jason instead of comparing him to Semi and Romeo.
I get that, but he was gone. Anyway, don't say
2 games. We're talking about 7.
How are you getting 2 games? That
4 days off.
It's 4 days off. It's 4. You go home for a day and you got 4-day quarantine. Maybe 5 days he misses.
But if the baby wasn't born in 24 hours, people go into labor for days.
5 days doesn't matter. He's gonna miss 3 more weeks. It's a crazy amount of time.
I think it's not as bad as they're saying too. I think he'll be back.
I don't know. I think
he went back to Indiana today, or that's what it sounded like.
And if it takes no fans in the arena to get Gordon Hayward to get his composure and play like Gordon Hayward was playing.
Now let's get down to the gist of this. Let's get down to the gist of this, because we're talking about a Toronto team now and not a Philadelphia team that doesn't know what it's doing defensively. This Toronto team, I think you could argue, is the best in the league defensively. They're going to challenge everybody across the board, and you need other options when it comes to Tatum maybe drawing some double teams this time, which Philly didn't do. Drop off to Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, those guys, it's not going to work as well as a Hayward would. And if Hayward can hit 4 or 5 threes in a game, that's where you get him up to that 15, 20, 25 even point mark. And Daniel Tice got there today because he hit a couple threes. but you will be searching hard for the fourth guy to reach double figures if Daniel Tice doesn't have a great game and Enes Kanter isn't able to get to that point either.
Yeah,
The scoring hierarchy on this team isn't very deep.
As much as it is a Hayward loss and everything you mentioned there, Bobby, makes it a key Brad Stevens series. I mean, he's going to have to coach, man. Not that he can't. He's a good coacher. He's a good coach, obviously. He's a good coach, obviously. But this is going to be a Brad Stevens series, you know. The one thing is we know.
Yeah, good coach.
Good culture. Good culture.
That's a technical term.
That's called. I don't even say why I have a speech impediment.
I don't want to do predictions, but because I haven't gotten deep enough into the film and stuff either. But are you feeling good going into this series? Because I'm a little nervous. I am.
You've been nervous since 2012, Bobby. You're always nervous.
Listen, I wasn't nervous about round one. I called it a sweep, but I'm nervous going into this one.
That was easy once Simmons was gone.
That was an easy one. I'll check it off.
I mean, I'm indifferent, to be honest with you, because...
Indifferent? What are you doing on the show?
Indifferent's probably the wrong word. I don't know. I have no feelings one way or the other. I've not seen enough of Toronto.
Bipolar Nick made an appearance.
Yeah, and the Celtics... I mean, there's just so many variables. You just mentioned how many. I just won't do predictions. I'm not nervous like I would be going against a defending champion usually. Let's put it that way.
What are the Toronto people thinking, John? Are they up in here?
I don't know. Celtics win this series. Celtics win this series.
Then they're getting out of the East, and Gordon Hayward will be back, and you guys could all sleep well. We'll give you back your big
huge. And I'll say this too.
And then we're all going to be bitching because he can't play. You know, it's going to be something.
Milwaukee will not have an easy time in the second round either, and I could see them losing that series.
I hope
that's going to be a fashionable pick. I don't know about it, but it's going to be a fashionable pick. Miami over Milwaukee. Real.
Bam Adebayo is a monster.
Two well-coached teams, too. Two well-coached teams. And
that's going to be fun. I'm watching every minute of that series. I think this is going to be great. Now we get down to the 8 teams that matter, the 4 series that matter. Like, all 4 of those series in the second round are going to be great. Maybe not that Utah one,
we should keep the bubble forever, guys. I kind of liked it.
I want to live in the bubble.
Can we go there?
Yeah.
We can work anywhere, bro. I mean, we're remote work. Let's go to the bubble.
Hey, it's on you, Nick.
I'd get thrown out in 15 minutes. I'd be like, him? No, get him out.
Yeah. So I don't know. I still think the Celtics win this series because I'm skeptical of some. I don't know. I'm not fully buying on.
You
Toronto.
Don't believe those players? Yeah.
It's hard. What's amazing is they are classic case of like the sum is greater than the parts. They're a really good team. I mean, they're
really good players.
The results prove it out, and they all have good players. It might not be that sexy, but I mean, they're really good players.
Well, let's get into it. Kyle Lowry's a top 5-10 point guard. Fred VanVleet has definitely gotten himself into that top 5 area shooting guard. Marcus Gasol is still up there when it comes to that conversation, and then Siakam's a top 25 player. They have talent.
Yeah,
they do.
They do have talent, but I mean, again, if you looked on, I think if you ask a casual fan and you looked at the Celtics roster and Toronto's roster,
come on, that's
and you'd be like, well, the Celtics have all these guys. So again, Toronto has these guys, but like the Celtics have a lot of talent. It's just, I think bench is going to come into play. I think size is going to be an issue. I mean, everything is matchup based in the league, and it's just how do you match up? Again, in the regular season, it seemed fairly well. So again, I think that's why the Hayward wild card is in here. You don't know what it's going to look like there without having him in there.
They should do, because he's not played majority of the time in Boston. Just take all those games.
Yeah, but the last 2 years, the teams were completely different. You had a Marcus Morris, you had a Terry Rozier.
I'm trying to annoy John, Bobby. That's all. I'm just trying to annoy John. Yeah. That's all. Listen, I think that if the Celtics can have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown playing the way they played in this series, even through the frustration in Game 3 with Tatum, it's going to be very hard for any team, including Milwaukee, to beat the Celtics. I mean, I don't know in the East. Are there any other two-player combos that are like that? Who am I forgetting? I mean, Giannis and who?
Middleton.
Yeah, but
that one's formidable.
That one's iffy, though. It's iffy.
No. Giannis is like the best player in the league, and Middleton's like the 15th.
15th. I mean, he's like the second best player in the league.
He'll be all NBA this year.
He's going to be. he's no worse than the 15 to 20 range. You know, I mean,
I like Chris with the K, man. I do. I mean, he kills the Celtics. He's a Celtic killer. He always was, Middleton.
Yeah.
Hey, and we're fortunate we're getting Toronto over them because I'd be feeling much worse.
It's a toss-up. Also, this series was gross in terms of basketball. I want to see something different. This was an awful.
This one will be
series.
good. I think this is going to be 7 strong games, all close.
I can't watch a team shoot 28% from the field again like Philly.
Hey, Nick, we've been waiting for this one for years. I'm excited. I was when
Toronto.
these two teams. When they lined up in the second round, they've missed each other for about 3 years in a row now. So this one's a long time coming.
Have always sucked going back 20 years. They've always sucked against Toronto, but we don't have.
And now they don't have to go there.
They don't have to go to Toronto. We don't have to go and follow them to Toronto. They're in Disney, so that's great.
That is good. I hate sending crews to Toronto. It's such a pain in the butt.
Oh, the passports and everything else. And now it's even worse. Well, they won't even let us in.
Great city, though.
I've never been, but I intend to go. I might move there after November, depending.
All right, so we'll have a lot more on Toronto, assuming they win. They play today at 6:30. This one should be a wrap-up for them.
Sorry, I'm looking at the chat. I can't.
Yeah, so this could start as early as Wednesday. If Toronto takes care of business tomorrow, the day off, so they'll get going on Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a totally different series. We could be back on Wednesday. We will have more on the Garden Report. We'll have a ramp-up to the series. We've got you covered on our YouTube channel, Daily Motion channel with all the Celtics post-game. So keep it here. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Celtics All Access, for all the goods. These guys are going to tape some segments now with
boy.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We'll talk
there
about
will be somebody who knows what they're talking about on.
Yes. We'll talk about the Raptors. We'll eulogize Philly, talk about the official end of the process and what happens next with those guys. And we're back maybe on Wednesday. But until then, for Nick, all of it. Until then, for Nick Gelso, Bobby Manning.